What's going on, guys? We're back here again today. Welcome back to the channel, Savage Panda Projects, the habitat for horsepower. So on today's video, we're going to be taking a look at comparing side by side the open box carbon fiber intake versus the closed box carbon intake from APR. Without further ado, let's get started. So I want to start this video by letting you all know, if you hadn't seen it already, I did a post the other day on Instagram. I do have my traditional closed box APR carbon fiber intake for sale for the Volkswagen Audi Mark 7 MQB 2-liter platform. I've had it on the car for a couple years. It's definitely treated me well. As you guys know, I recently switched over to the APR open style intake, which we're going to be talking about on today's discussion video, but just wanted to go ahead and put that out there, guys. If you're watching this video in the future, there's a good chance it might already be sold, but nevertheless, leave a comment down below, shoot me a message, I'm happy to respond. So getting into our discussion for today's video, guys, often a hot topic as far as looking at aftermarket air intakes with all different makes and models of car. And I know a beginner starting point, a lot of times when you buy a new car, you're getting ready to dive into the aftermarket world, you pretty much start with an air intake. It's pretty standard. They are popular upgrades on both NA cars as well as boosted cars. And they do have the pros and cons, which I'm going to get to in a little bit, but I think what we want to kind of tackle today is looking at the closed style versus the open style, because a lot of people tend to butt heads on this stuff, and we just want to have a nice little open discussion and talk about some pros and cons and some differences. So really for me, guys, just to kind of set a realistic expectation here for any of these air intakes among all different cars, I'm really never going to expect to bolt on massive horsepower figures by simply installing an air intake. It's just really not a realistic expectation. So I just want to kind of establish that. So that being said, guys, when it comes down to the open style versus the closed, I really don't think either way you're going to make huge gains. So looking at the differences between the two, I think for a lot of people, they really want the sound, right? I totally get it. You've got a turbocharged car, you want to get more induction noise, get some more growl, get some more tone, some pleasantly cheerful whooshiness from that turbo. Oh man, that IS-38 hits hard, son. There's a little whistle there, kind of some whooshy diverter valve sound. I don't know if you guys can hear that on the camera. Let's talk about where people start to kind of butt heads and their opinions can differ. So very plain and simple, you've got open box and closed box designs. So I think the obvious stands pretty clear. You're really not going to be bringing in a whole lot of cooler, denser outside air when you've got an open filter underneath your hood that's going to pull in more hot engine bay air. That's really going to go against the concept of a cold air intake. So I think if you're going for all-out performance, if you want to get the most out of one of these cars, or any car for that matter, I think the closed box in terms of performance is probably always going to be the most beneficial style to really isolate the induction and prevent your car from sucking in hot engine bay air. Now, if you guys really wanted to go deep into this, you could read the technicalities for each respective manufacturer's website. If you want to look at the dyno graph, you can take a look and see exactly like, okay, what are we actually going to net from these mods? But however you slice the pie, once again, you're really never gonna bring home just massive gains from air intakes, especially without a tune. I mean, you're just not really gonna be doing a whole lot there other than getting more whooshiness, induction noise, and all that kind of fun stuff, which is totally fine. I mean, you got a car, you're gonna modify it, I'm assuming you're gonna want some nice induction noise, right? It's so much fun. I'll be sure to leave a YouTube card right up here if you want to take a look at the video I did where we first installed this new open box style intake from APR. I did a back-to-back comparison just to give you guys some sound clips so you can get an idea of what both setups would sound like. Again, closed style versus open. The closed style definitely was a bit quieter, as you'd expect. The open box does give you a lot more whooshiness and fun induction sounds. the logical order of how much money you're putting forth into a build and what you're actually getting in return. If you haven't done a tune yet on your car, I personally don't think it makes sense to buy a carbon fiber intake for $500, $600, sometimes more depending on the car. So, I mean, you figure the retail price for a carbon fiber intake, let's just throw out a ballpark here, maybe $500. Well, on a lot of these 2-liter cars, you could buy a stage 1 tune for $500, and you're going to pick up 100 horsepower, probably 100 pound-feet of torque. You're going to get a massive difference from stock to stage 1. That's a much more logical way to spend your money, in my opinion. So you got to think about what your budget, what your intentions are with the car, and what you're really trying to accomplish. I mean, if you think about it too, I mean, okay, let's say you've already done a stage 1 tune or something like that. You've already made some respectable gains. Well, I also would say that you should probably start putting money into cooling. You got to think about these turbocharged cars. They're producing so much heat to make power, and a lot of times you're pushing these cars really hard in the summertime. The temperatures just keep creeping up. I think you're going to have a lot better results putting that money into an intercooler to cut down a heat soak and preserve your power. Once again, before you start putting $500 into a carbon intake, that's $500 you could put into an aftermarket intercooler. So that's also another point to consider when you're making your decisions on what aftermarket upgrades you're going to go with. So guys, final conclusion, closed box, open box, stock intake, you do whatever you think is best. At the end of the day, whatever floats your boat, whatever puts a smile on your face. I think if the budget allows, the carbon fiber intakes, any aftermarket air intake of any sort, it is a fun upgrade. It looks great under the hood. I love the induction noise. It is certainly a fun upgrade, but don't feel like this is something that you have to do. So guys, let me know in the comment section down below. Always curious to hear your thoughts. I'll go ahead and leave you guys here, provide some more in-cabin noise for this open box carbon fiber intake from APR. I should also mention we have aftermarket charge pipes. We've got the turbo inlet pipe as well as the turbo muffler lead. So this is about as loud as it's going to get as far as these aftermarket upgrades. The only thing that would really enhance the volume even more would be an aftermarket like blow-off valve or diverter valve, which I'm not really a big fan of. I don't really feel like they have a lot of benefit on these particular 2 liters. So go ahead and leave you guys with some clips. I'll be sure to see you guys in the next one. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Later. Man, I love that IS-38, bro. Gets down.